Blog Talk Radio.
Hello and welcome to Open Money on Blog Talk Radio. I'm Ernie Jacob and I'm joined by Alan Rosenblith in Portland, Oregon, US of A. Michael Linton will be joining us in fact he may even be here. I see.
Might even be here.
He is here. Isn't that
excellent?
Lovely?
Hi, Michael.
Hi, Alan. Sorry to be so last minute, but
that's okay. We had it covered. So we're going to continue talking about submissions for acknowledgement and projected submissions for acknowledgement, bootstrapping ourselves into existence, and all that kind of stuff. But before we do, we should talk a little bit about what's happening with you in Portland, Alan.
Yeah, well, I think basically the update, I think, is that we're having some conversation around determining what our budget should look like and what stages there are to the budget and, you know, what comes before what and all that kind of concern. And I think there's a discussion occurring around the bootstrapping approach. So I would like to use at least a little bit of the time here to clarify the difference between bootstrapping with a relatively low initial capitalization and then the sort of full frontal assault approach, which is I think kind of the other approach. So I kind of want to delineate and clarify those things a little bit clearly today. That's kind of my agenda. Also, maybe if we can explain some of that SFA stuff, because I think I last radio show I almost had it. I had it for like 2 seconds and then it was gone. So I want to really work on that and make sure to internalize some of those ideas a little bit more. So I don't know, but what do you guys want to talk about?
Well, it sounds like a pretty good place to elaborate from. We put up the context of this broadcast today as discussion of the SFA process. So we're right in line. We've got a background script on the Ning site, or openmoney.ning.com. There's a link on the top page that takes you to the SFA discussions. So let's marry those into your current situation. Tell us more. Well, let's maybe I can start off with trying to get a brief and paint it out in broad strokes, the difference between the sort of one funding model, which is get a huge amount of initial capitalization and go full throttle and greenlight the system only when it reaches a certain very large size. And another approach, which is, seems to me to be a little bit more organic, which is start off with seed money and grow the program naturally as it is able to do so. So maybe just if we can maybe start with painting some broad strokes, just compare and contrast those two approaches. Okay, well, that's a very good place to start, because it pinpoints one of the distinctions that we're able to play with here. I think the conventional approach to financing any initiative is assume you're pushing a rock up a hill. There's a mass to be managed. There is resistance or an uphill grade. Quite possibly there's 20 other people pushing equivalent rocks up the same hill beside you, and you've got to beat them up the hill, otherwise your rock won't be at the top of the hill at the right time, So our world of how do we get there is based upon that whole deal. Effort against resistance, capitalize to create some sort of asset, territory, control. Other people are going to compete with you for it. Well, we're rather on the level of the rock balanced at the top of the hill already. And our job is to actually just roll it a little bit until it
gets on the downslope, and then its own momentum will create more rock slide, more avalanche, more process. It's like when you're drilling for oil, you might have to use a coal-fired steam engine to run the system, and so you're bringing in the coal to power it up. But once you've got the oil, you can burn the oil to run the drill rig. Once you've made the breakthrough, the previous channel of supply is you can drop it. You can move on to the resources you now have. Now, what we're saying about open money is that it is the biggest open space, economically, socially, that's conceivable. It allows people to form arrangements that create common wealth amongst them through their interactions and through their own individual self-interest.
Yeah.
So to be locking ourselves back into the old picture is, it's like the airplane needs a runway to get off the ground, but when it's in the air, it's in that medium. The concrete is not the issue that it was when you were building up your takeoff speed.
Right.
So mixing all those metaphors, analogies, and patterns, we come to our own dog food, our own tortillas.
Well, here's
technology.
Here's the question I would have, which is, looking at, you use the metaphor of using coal to fire the drills that drill for the oil, and so forth. Now, using that metaphor, how can we make sure? I think the question becomes, how do we know where to dig for the oil? How do we know where to drill? Because and I think this is at least my understanding of the difference between those two approaches that I outlined in the beginning. One says you need a whole lot of coal to make sure that you can get to where the oil is, and you might not be able to find the oil for a while. So then the next question is, how do we what about the community way process or bootstrapping process inherent in community way, or just bootstrapping in general? How does that work in terms of finding the oil? How do we, you see what I'm saying?
I do, and I think it relates nicely to the time map you put up on your site on Cascadia TradingCo.com. The time map for Community Way. Maybe I can post that to the chat. Do you have the chat up, Ernie?
Yep. The chat's up, and I'll post it. I've got it here.
Cool, excellent.
So that others coming behind can see the issues. You see, I look at this one, and it's a good logical alignment of the preliminary tasks necessary to get this going on wherever. But let's just take the central line, the communications. I take it that's what common stands for, is it?
Yep.
You're talking about an introductory intensive. That's probably Ernie and I having fun in Portland. And then you introduce branding, brand marketing, so that we can get to the memorandums of understanding from some businesses, and then we'll look for some memorandums of understanding from the beneficiary groups, the nonprofits. Then we'll take that and ask people who are in a position to put up the cash to enable the community way model to get off its runway, the fronters. Now, my guess is that we may find oil by putting the fronters right after the intensive, and then talking to the NPOs, and then the MOUs from business.
Well, I mean,
and that the branding and brand marketing, which are very important components, and have obviously got to be brought in progressively and more strongly at every stage. I mean, there's work to be done in that area. But is the oil found by digging for the brand first, or is the oil in the fronters? And my point would be, if you find the right place to put the effort, there's a damn sight less effort required.
So you're saying identify the correct fronters up front.
Yeah, get the fronters up front. I'd say that's possibly the way that you go straight to the oil, rather than that you're messing around with the let's persuade people this will make money level.
The
investment is safe.
I want to reverse engineer this and make sure we talk this through, because I dig what you're saying. So if it seems to me that the fronters, if there's any group, now I know I can feel you guys about to correct me on this, but I'm going to say it anyway.
Do that, so as we can jump in. You get first shot at this one, do you? Okay, you take it first, Danny. You hit him first, and then I'll go.
It's okay. Don't worry.
If there's any, all right. Well, if there's any group that's taking any risk here, it's not the businesses taking a risk. It's certainly not the nonprofits taking a risk, and it's really not even the individuals taking a risk. It seems like if there is a group taking the risk, it's the fronters, because they're the ones.
Yep.
Yeah.
The fronters are buying the money.
Yeah, and they're the ones who say, even though this, we will start buying this, the community way dollars as soon as they come into the system, and recirculating them, or, in some manner or another, either by using them at the businesses or recirculating them to nonprofits. So let's say, so now if they're the one group taking a risk, then it seems to me that you say, okay, well, what's their risk predicated on? And their risk is predicated on the fact that maybe only 2 businesses want to sign up. Maybe only 1 nonprofit signs up. So they've outlaid all this cash, and then they've gotten these community way dollars, which aren't necessarily taking off, right? That's the risk they're taking. So the question is then, okay, well, if you can come to them with all the materials you need, so you show them what it looks like, so all the branding, you show them the card swipe or the smart card technology, and show them how that works, and you show them that there's a definite group of interested businesses and nonprofits who are interested prior to even knowing that there is fronters, because the whole system depends on the fronters, at least for the first 6 months. It seems like now that you've done a fair job as, startup business as far as outlining what's necessary for the fronters to feel comfortable taking that risk.
Well, certainly that lightens the load considerably. In fact, there is no load by the point you've got a nice roster of businesses that their intention to participate is clear-cut and well-defined, and you can see that the hardware store's in this for $20,000 and the grocery store for $100,000 and the brewery for $50,000 or whatever. When you've got all those numbers stacked up as this is what we're looking at, then the 3,000 or 4,000, the 10,000 that the fronters are invited to carry, it doesn't seem like such a big problem. It's a question of quality. Who are the contributors to the community way? Who are the donors? Who are the people you've managed to attract interest from? But after you've got a few and the scale is in place, the fronter should be able to say, well, listen, even if this thing folds completely, then the amount that the grocery store is, for instance, committed, might be just restricted to the 3,000 or 4,000 they put into the development pot. The 100,000 they were going to donate may not yet be transacted. I'm talking about a fail at the first fence level, right? You can set off to do this and nothing really works apart from the initial protestations, and then it flounders. Well, the amount of money that the OMDG might have put through, hard cash, might be only in the region of 3,000 or 4,000.
Okay.
And 3,000 or 4,000 of grocery certificates is, I think, a legitimate call back on the grocery store. And you can make that a part of it. You can say, listen, you guys are potentially up for 100,000 or $1 million in donations. You're potentially up for about 10% of that scale for fees. How about you unequivocally give us room for the first 1%? You know?
Okay, run that by me again.
Well, they're going to say it's a business that's going to donate $1 million. It's got a 1,000 employees. Well, that's a big one. It's too big for this discussion. Let's take one that's got 100 employees, because that's much more within the range. It's a supermarket, right?
Okay.
So got 100 employees at 1,000 per. That's a donation base of 100,000. It's a contribution to development of 10,000.
Yeah.
Right? So, and they're going to buy equipment, maybe another 10K on that. So you're looking at, say, 100, 120,000 is their range of projection on this thing. So when you start with them, you say, okay, please, we can mobilize this entire project if you will say 5,000 of such grocery certificates into the package right now.
Okay.
If they will make an advance on their fee of, what did we say, 10,000? They'd make an advance on that of 2, 3, 4, 5, progressively.
But how are grocery certificates any different from community way dollars?
They are community way dollars.
Yeah.
They are.
Okay,
yeah.
good.
But you're saying, let's not wait until we've lined up all the charities and the store has issued all this, essentially, credit. For a start with a store, you might want them to filter it in by the month. 10,000 a month could be their what their deal is. So what you're really saying at the beginning is, if you think this is a good idea, start it. And the store says, how much would do it? You say 3,000, 4,000, maybe another 1,000 every couple of weeks, as your fee.
Yeah.
We're going to go to our bankers, who might be the local government. It might be a local bank. It might be for your friends who've got enough cash around to say, okay.
Or a trust.
Yeah.
A non-profit.
So, because you see, you've got 5 people working in this project. You've got 15, 20 around it who think it's a great idea. The 15 or 20, they shouldn't be in the office with you. What they should be doing is cheering and throwing money, support the package. So the way they do that, they're in this sort of the peripheral nod set, right? They're the ones who sit and nod, They also serve who sit and nod. All they've got to do is say, okay, you're getting 3K, we'll flip that 3K, you got 3K cash. What we've got is plenty of grocery certificates.
Okay.
One business, one does it. So it's no skin off their nose.
This is part of the MOU stage, you're saying, is, hey, we think this is a great idea. If you agree to come on board with this,
Some strategy like that would be very appropriate, and it makes it, and it means that you go out and you look for that grocery store or the keystone contributors. There'll be some real foundation type businesses that make a lot of sense. A particular local restaurant, for instance, or a network of grocery stores that are locally owned or operated. Could be a telco, could be an energy provider. Do you have green energy supplies into Portland?
Yeah.
Renewable hydro at different pricing and so on. Well, they would be a perfect group to become, yes, we support this, and our take would be, maybe 10% in the retail.
Okay.
I think they could probably hit that sort of scale. I don't know what their costings are, but I would expect almost every business can go to 10%. Gas companies can go to 10% at the pump. So I would think renewable electricity supplier could do similar levels.
Well, certainly a lot of that is locally supplied power too. So that's
and then you might think of ISP, who's providing internet connectivity in your region.
Right.
Now, you see, that's a beauty because it's bandwidth. Really, the ISP doesn't have to add a lot more to accommodate a bit more in traffic.
Right.
So it's a very nice liquidity margin in there. So these are just particular sorts of startup corporations, community businesses. And you can see that there's many of those individually would be enough to do that little bootstrap the bootstrap, right?
Yeah.
So that's why we're saying this is about talking to the right people soon. And then you'll have everything in place, including the financing to do the branding and the marketing stuff.
Right. Well, so
sort of go for the jugular. Go get the money. You know what I mean?
I'm going to be honest here. I wonder about presenting. I mean, it's one thing to get to present an idea to businesses and say, hey, this is what we want to do. It's another thing to get them to commit certificates, community way dollars.
Oh yeah. And I think that will come out of a sort of I will if they will. I was just giving you the sort of the hardest case scenario.
Okay.
At the least you could do, you could find the business with 100 people, and you could sell it to them one-on-one as a, boy, you got to do this. Mm-hmm. And that's really what we're going to take to some of our corporates in the big scale. In the big scale of community way, we're looking at the baby bear, mama bear, daddy bear sort of thing. So we're looking at corporations with 1,000 employees as baby bears. We're looking at the 10,000 employees as mama bear. And we're thinking of the 100 and up 1,000 employees as this is daddy bear, right? And why am I talking about this? It's this business of the scaling matters.
Yeah.
And you can talk to a lot of 10 employee places, or you can talk to one of 100 employees. And at the level of getting an exploration for value, that is, the business says to itself, how much am I asked to risk, explore, put out, commit here against what's the potential benefit? And if you're talking to a small business, you're asking for a few hundred or a few thousand of their time and energy at some level spread over a year or so to affect maybe benefit.
Yeah.
And it's not a huge amount, but it's not a huge payoff. Now, if you're talking to a business with 100, the what's in it for them level is very substantial. I mean, you should basically say to every business, it's probably that they should think of it as a 10% bump. The level of your economic customer base, activity, costs, profits, margins, whatever. Think of this as a 10% shift in your world, and generally positive. Almost all businesses are going to be lifted by this tide. Now, who is really interested in getting that? A bigger business will have a much more urgent value in terms of dollars on the bottom line for being in this than a small business. So we are now going up the scale with this game of who wants to play, who's in this, who's a game in this. And sure, you can go through several small businesses, and I think it's a good process to do. Technically, you will have to do it anyway at some point, but going through and getting sort of provisional commitments from 5 or 6, 10, 15 of them is a great way to explore the situation and understand it. And it really doesn't need much more than a few well-written pages and your actual presence.
Well, I mean, one thing I like, just to kind of return back to that, one thing I like about, for the businesses, it seems like a no-brainer because there's no risk until loyalty is captured. And that's not even a risk because they're covering their costs. So there's no way businesses can lose no matter what.
That's how we figure it set up, thanks to the charitable cycle.
Yeah, but even if they donate community way dollars up front prior to charities being on board, they donate community way dollars up front, aka gift certificates for their merchandise, community way dollars up front to the system to what you're calling the OMDG, or what we call a Cascadia Trading Co-op, or whatever it is, that central system, they're not taking a risk, because even then, when those gift certificates come back, when those community way dollars come back, they're still capturing loyalty. It just hasn't gone through the charitable part of the loop yet.
Yeah, it's the tiny loop loyalty of the inner core in a way. I mean, basically what we're saying to a business is your slack is money. Your spare space, your empty tables, everything you've got that you could move into the market is potentially monetizable.
Yeah.
I.e., now monetizing it through the charitable cycle is great, but if you have any questions about what can I buy with my slack, with my monetizing the space in my system, the answer is, look, monetize us with it, and you will get a full-scale major operation financed by your using this tiny little first part of it. So this is the demonstration itself. If you want to know what you can get for community money, I'll tell you what you can get for community money. You can get community money as a full system simply by starting it. Are you ready?
Right. So basically the OMDG in one way or another becomes the first charity to which they give.
Well, it's the first venture, yes. And from their
project.
experience, it's a research and development project. They would count it as a research and development cost at that point.
So they are capturing the loyalty of all the people who are interested in backing that research and development project.
That's true, but I'd look at it broader than that. I'd look at it as they're laying down something and they're getting first entry to something. What is it they're getting first entry to? They're getting first entry to the new economy. Right. You want to know what you can buy with community money? You can buy your future. You can buy your way into something that is just not available to you. Now, it contains things like loyalty, but it contains a hell of a lot more than that.
Yeah, well, I kind of outlined that in a response to a discussion just recently on the CTC Ning site, where I basically said, it seems to me like for businesses this is a two-stage process, and the first value proposition for businesses is the loyalty component, because what's in it for them? What's in it for them is capturing loyalty from people. Same logic as coupons and gift certificates and all that. Right?
That's your bottom line. That's the saver. That's the one that says, you're doing all this already. You're doing this in 25 different ways. Here's a way that produces a lot of value for the community group itself. So it's a very high-yield form of what you've been doing forever.
Yeah, so that's stage one. That's the first value proposition. And it seems like for that value proposition, it literally could be, it's still what I'm saying about this pertaining to this discussion is it's literally still of value to one business donating, say, 5,000 community way dollars to the OMDG.
Okay. It's limited, but you see that really pinpoints it. It's that question, what can I get for community dollars? And at a later stage, when there's lots of businesses, you say, well, you can spend them on other businesses. Oh, yeah. Right. At the earlier stages, when a business says, what can I get for community dollars? First of all, they're getting community value from their donation, the CSR side of the deal. Secondly, they're getting the loyalty. But thirdly, we say to them, you want to know what you can buy with it? You can buy our hardware and software and services.
Yeah.
With money you didn't know you had.
Right.
You didn't know you had this money, and look what it can get you right now.
Yeah, well, I have to admit, I was a little skeptical about selling hardware in the community way dollars, but I got that one now. That's brilliant.
Yeah, well, but it's everything. You see, we're providing everything for community.
Yeah.
The full service deal is we do it for community. No cash required.
Well, the system itself gives legitimacy to the money. So
we confer value on it by doing it. You see, the whole barter industry has been crippled for 50 years because it's been running about that long, the commercial barter industry. It's been crippled by its statement, you don't need money, use the barter credits, pay us cash.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really makes the sales job a hell of a lot more difficult.
Right. Well, it's a sort of a, I mean, I definitely maintain some deal of respect to the commercial barter industry because they have taken that movement pretty far. But at the same time, I see that that's a major structural impediment. And it also comes across looking like a little bit of a bait and switch.
A little bit, and has been many occasions. Yeah, it's always compromise in their situation is that they are not eating their own dog food.
So, yeah. But yeah, and I think the same could be said for some other models out there. But I think that the difference.
Let's not go there.
The difference with this, though, it seems, where the reliance, though, is taken out of the users because there is a cash cost to all this stuff, and that reliance is put on it on the cash cost is floated by people who want to support the project, the fronters.
Yeah, people who see this as something that they want to have.
Yeah.
Now, we're making it fairly easy for them by saying you don't actually part with spending power because, all right, you've restricted, instead of having the cash, you now have these credits that work in these small number of initial businesses. So, yeah, right. You've accepted a restriction. But it's not a huge damage thing. Like, nobody's being asked to sign, the $100,000 check.
But, I mean, getting back to the bootstrapping model, so that initial pitch to that business or businesses, say, hey, if you put up some of this merchandise and set your percentage now, just hypothetically, because you know what your costs are, set that up, put that up now, that's no risk to you, and you capture the loyalty of all the people in our circle who want to front us the cash, buy these certificates for cash to get this thing going. That
makes them the core founding members. You see, this is the pitch that we want to take into this little bear, big bear world.
Yeah.
Is who wants to be known as the people who started this?
Right.
And what do you have to do to be that person? Well, you have to act like that person, that organization. You have to take community money that you have issued. You have to participate in a recirculation process. And the first thing we're inviting you to do is to create the whole process from the money you didn't know you had. Right.
Well, or from the margins that they're still covering their costs.
They're being asked to make a commitment to provide service. That is what their monetary issue is. It's a commitment to serve, and they get nothing for nothing. This money is free, but it's not free, right?
Right.
Nobody's giving it away.
But what they do get is increased customer loyalty. So.
Well, they get everything. They get the branding. They get the PR kick of being the leaders of the local economic revival. You name it. The upsides of being involved in this at the beginning are huge.
Right.
For a fairly small number of businesses that are going to be the ones that are identified locally, regionally, internationally as the ones who were there first, who saw the ball and went for it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, and it's such a different entry fee from a lot of these other programs that work, which require an entry fee in cash. So.
Yeah, and we're saying your entry fee is you. You are your entry fee.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah. Okay. So
no pain, lots of gain.
So with that in mind, you're saying that's the first asset of the OMDG are these community weight dollars. Then we take that asset to fronters and say, okay, we already have this commitment from these businesses. Now
Okay,
are you willing?
Actually, you've just crossed one little edge. You see, you're talking about involving an external corporation business in the contract between the OMDG and for the delivery of a community waste system. That's basically the transaction we're talking about. Will the business put up so many OMD community way dollars to you to get the ball beginning?
Yeah.
Now, there is a stage before that. It's before you've talked to the businesses. When you do the internal creation amongst your intentional community, that is, those people in your world who say, damn yes, let's do this. We want to do this. How much do we want to do this? Well, we really want to do this. Or I can do a bit of this. Like you accumulate that sense of what is the intentional capital of our group. Now that's what we're talking about in this preliminary SFA, the projected SFA. Now this is all about, intent, commitment, dream, leading to action. Because unless you have those intents and commitments, what action are you going to get? And
right.
Well, who knows and how. So this is the whole purpose of any projecting, forward budgeting, planning perspectives. You say, well, I'll do this if you'll do that, if you'll do this, and then we'll do the other, and then whatever, you see. So the first level is work out how much you guys actually want to do this. So you basically form your chat shop, your little sit around the cafe or whatever, and you work out for yourself, how much would it mean to you to have a fully evolved PDX this time next year? At your best levels. Let's not be crazy, let's not be pessimistic, but if this worked like a dream, and you were sitting in a cafe in a year's time, hypothesize, speculate, and then put some sort of a value on that. It might be directly financial. My business would be doing another 20% trade or something, or I would have a full-time paid job in community currency development and associated task areas. Because so many. I could be in agricultural collectives. I could be working on energy retrofits. I could be building light systems,
Okay.
But my world would be this much better if, or whatever. Now, if that isn't the case in the first place, if you don't think your world would be better, why are you sitting here? So the first thing is project a dream, put some sort of a sense of value on it, and then you come back to the real PSFAs, the real projected submissions for acknowledgement, which have got to be in the month-by-month level. What are we doing now? What are we doing now? What are we going to do then? I mean, they're all horizons. I have a guess at 3 months, better guess at 2, fairly clear what I think I can do in the next month, and this is my commitment for the next week. Right?
Right.
Now, you just want to quantify that in terms of sort of hours and energy, so that you've got a picture of what this little group brings to a hypothetical startup. Don't worry about where the numbers are going to come from, just what would they bring to and what do they need for it. And you will probably find that the 5 of you encompass something like about $30,000 worth of energy commitment over the next 3 months. That'd be a guess. Right? So what you're looking at is the progressive creation inside your group of we have done this, we have done this, we have done this. So that after, say, 2 weeks of actual action and planning, your group might have already run up $5,000 of internal nods, internal accountability for effort provided within a couple of weeks. Okay? Now, these are just nods by the OMDG to its parts. Got me? This is not money. This is an accounting. This is just saying, our score sheet says Alan for so many, these guys for whatever, so much to that. That's what the score sheet says. So these are just accounts. They're not a money as such. But of course, you can then go to the other people around the nod circle, the people who are not part of the core 5, but are part of the surrounding 15 or 20, and you can say, can anybody cash these nods? Right? Now this is pure belief in each other and what we are doing. There is not yet a product. No business is signed up. Nobody is truly accountable because the OMDG, the negative in the system, has no assets, has no product, has nothing but futures. So basically, a nod is nothing. Now, does that mean it's not worth anything? Does that mean that we haven't got somewhere and are not going somewhere? Well, some people will say so. They're our buddies. Some people will say no. Okay. Step aside, please. We're busy. So there's room for people to be infinitely supportive for this project by simply standing there and saying, I'll buy a few nods from the pot.
Right.
Or, I'll buy a few nods from this person and a few from that.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'll buy the phone bill. I get nods for that.
Right.
Or, I've got a charge card, came in the mail the other day. 0% for the first 6 months. I'll sign up on this, and I will run every cost that we can put through the charge card on this as an accounting service for the project.
Well, I mean, I think, first of all, I think that's a wonderful idea. I think in terms of will that turn around a significant cash flow for the OMDG, I don't...
No, it won't.
Yeah.
Significant in terms of large numbers, no, it won't.
Well, I mean, in
large
terms
numbers
of paying
are not
rent,
there yet.
Eating food.
But even little numbers are very valuable.
Mm-hmm.
And if it accelerates the internal creation of, well, this is a collective intelligence. Collective intelligence is what the parts of the piece do with each other to get the whole moving. What they do. It's all about interaction. It's all about shared actions and events.
Yeah.
So, like, the very process of recognizing this architecture, that we are a group of dreamers, and we're nodded by our common assessment of the commonwealth we are creating, and if you're with us, you can help this progress by being a declared part of the commonwealth. You can buy a nod. Every nod helps.
Right.
You don't need many to make this a real process. You know those guys that we met from Ashland that came up to the thing? They raised $2,000 in their community in a couple of weeks by putting out a notice saying that they would really appreciate that support to be able to get themselves up to Seattle for the weekend and participate in this deal.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the people who supported them were offered nothing, of course. It was an invitation to just please give us the money. It will help. It will be good. Right? Now, by comparison, you can quantify that process by saying, we need 2,000 to do this. We need another 100 for that. Then we want to do, and you can draw up a nice little budget with block charts of different colors and different shapes and orders, a flow chart of what money is needed.
Mm-hmm.
And then people can sort of commit to doing that. I'll pay for that. I want my odds.
Well, I think that's quite a good idea. And I mean, I'm thinking there like a house party sort of thing might be a really helpful way to kind of broach that.
Well, you know what? I think the way to do it is the way I usually think about it is bring in the brothers. Arnie and Michael will come in and do the job. We'll explain it to 5, 6, 10 people in such a way that 5, 6, 10 people can explain it to as many as they want. And in due course, you'll be able to get this stuff online. You'll be able to get off the wire. It'll be all over the place. But right now, nothing like us on the job.
Yeah.
So,
well, yeah. No. I hear that.
So in general terms, I think the answer is, you get a few people together and you thrash through these ideas until they begin to make sense to you. And then you do it.
I think the key here is going to be in the buying of the nods, because if people, I mean, it's like you say, it's the recognition that those nods amount to value that has been created for the community. That's really what we're talking about.
The project you're betting on the project.
Yeah. Oh, and that the nods represent in some meaningful way value that is created through this process.
The nods are a claim on future revenues of the OMDG. The nods are real at that level. It's the nature of the agreement amongst all nodders is that this is about sharing what comes back, you know. And the presumption OMDG, yeah, right. You know, the OMDG presumes there's so much money coming back, it's ridiculous. You know, this is a unique case. Not everything will have this. You want to make a movie, you can make a movie exactly as we're describing it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly that way. It's just standard, and it's been done 100 times. Not all the movies made any money, right? So a lot of times, nods turn out to be gone in the wind, right? They never realize any return to the users. But our assertion inside the OMDG is that this is a red-hot project, green and cool as well. So let's go with it. It's going to make money. Nods will be worth something. And our fail-out system is this, you know, the protection, the bailout, the contingency bailout. You know, you get to the first fence and fall flat on your face. It'll be in the region of $5,000-10,000 community dollars, which you may by that stage have recovered already from the first business entry. You see?
Yeah, yeah.
Alan,
low threshold, very low threshold.
Film? You know
What's
film, The Producers?
The
Producers.
Yeah. The film.
Zero Mostel and
Gene Wilder.
Wilder, yeah. Yeah, Springtime for Hitler.
Yeah.
Well, it's the West Coast. Bring in the producers.
Well, which is, that's funny for a lot of reasons. I think, so the one question then is, are these nods also considered future claims on forthcoming Community Way dollars? Is that another way to think of this?
Yeah, that's that. A nod will be worth what nods produce. Nods will produce Community Way dollars. Community Way dollars will produce cash as well. So eventually, you know, there'll be ways in which, by waiting long enough, your nod will be cash.
You're basically asking a group of people to, and possibly an organization as well, to pre-buy the projected income of the Community Way dollars for cash.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. A very small number, because as soon as you got the first major business participation, their preliminary advance of sort of R&D costings, you know, a part of the eventual fee, which is much less than their eventual donation and the purchasing of the equipment. But if they will advance the sort of R&D starter from your first 20 small businesses or your first 2 biggies, then you've even taken the risk out of Community Way.
Right.
Before you got those guys, the group has to believe in itself.
Yeah. So the nods basically amount to futures contracts on Community Way dollars. Yeah.
They're a claim by the agreements entered into by the signatories. These are some form of accounting that we will use to divide up what revenue comes in the best way that we think serves our interests.
And I mean, I assume nod for nod would be one nod, $1, one Community Way dollar.
I believe a nod is in dollars. That's one way of nodding. It's nods in dollars. Yeah.
Well, that actually makes a whole lot of sense. I think that's slightly convoluted, but I get it now. Because basically,
virtuous circles inside virtuous circles. It does seem convoluted, but when you get into it, you'll find that it's just simply recursive pattern.
Yeah.
It just uses the idea that we attribute value and can therefore collaborate.
Yeah.
That's
well,
all
and that there's a group of people who acknowledge that what we are doing is valuable. I mean,
see the pattern, do the pattern. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, it sounds like what you described before is you've got these, say, 5, real hardcore people at the center, right? Then you've got
I like soft-core people at the center myself. I'm a soft center sort of guy. And, the kernel,
Well, these 5 very committed people who are really who essentially want to take this on as full-time work,
who see this as people who see it as the thing to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, not the only thing to do, but this has to be done.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so we've got these 5. Then there's maybe a group of 20 around who are, maybe are a little bit confused, like they don't know what,
they're not experts in the software, or they're not willing to talk to businesses as salespeople, or they're not good at graphic design, or they're busy being dentists.
Right. So what they can do is buy the nods that the internal group of 5 has been accounting with, and then these nods are claims on future revenue stream in Community Way dollars.
Accurately, what they are, first of all, are records of forms of contribution.
Yeah.
The fact of whether they are claims or not lies in the agreements that you structure your LLC.
Well, I mean, it seems like they should be claims because...
Yeah. Well, yeah, but claim is a dangerous word. You've got to be careful with it. It's just... it's not an impossible world. It's just that I think that we've got to be clear that you see, some people will tell you that the U.S. dollar is a claim on something.
Right.
It ain't.
Well,
you can settle all legal debts with it. You can pay your taxes with it for sure. And you will be taxed. So I guess that means all your dollars are worth something. You will be taxed. But people have often said that a Let's dollar is a claim on. And I've been quite particular to say, no, it's not. A Let's dollar is what somebody said, and it's an indication of what they might do. Now, a nod is an indication of what people have done and said they've done, and are appreciated as having done, right?
Yeah.
You get nods because the group says, yep, 4,000 to Alan, 345 to this, the group says. And so the nods are the expression of the group. They're just an indication, though.
Yeah.
And I think it's use them as the basis for your accounting of your future distribution of revenues. I would leave it at that. I would not call it a claim.
Well, but if okay,
they're votes, man. They're just votes. You see, if I'm on, that have you gone to the Wildfire site and the how we earn them, the Wildfire Community Currency.net site. It's all, you find it on Let's.net if you're following this one by air.
It's on the Blog Talk chat too.
Good for you, Arnie. Thank you very much. There's display on there of what people said they'd done and what they wanted. And it's by that display that John and Catherine and Noah worked out how they distributed the revenues, the cash available.
Right.
Now, that was the agreement. The agreement was we'll use these scores to work out what we're doing next.
Right.
That's one step way back from a claim,
Yeah. So, yeah. No, I got this.
Okay, guys, we've got 5 minutes. We got 5 minutes remaining. We probably thrashed this one to death. Do you want to touch on taxes a bit before the end, Alan?
The question has come up, and through a couple folks that we talked to in the nonprofit community, that community way dollars may not be taxed. I mean, at least as I understand it, in this country, the way it works is that gift certificates are not tax deductible until they're redeemed. So then the question becomes with community way dollars, if they're tax deductible at the time of donation or as they come in. So the business, like has, we pulled in, 20,000 community way dollars this year. That's $20,000 we can take off our taxes. Now the further question there is, if we are letting in organizations that are not 501c3s take the community way dollars, and that may sour the honey for everyone, which I think is okay. But I just think we shouldn't even worry about tax. I mean, because I don't think the value for businesses is being able to take a tax deduction. I think the value for businesses is the loyalty currency part.
Entirely. That is the bottom line on this, is that the business only need worry about the tax implications of this at the point where they start receiving them as income.
Yeah.
Now, if that's the case, well, sales tax, that's easy. You take that in cash anyway. So on these groceries or this meal or this whatever, so much in the community currency, and sales tax on the lot. So that's not a cash problem. It's when his income in the community currency is measured as an asset on his books, or he starts paying his staff with it in various ways, then sure, the question is, geez, is this taxable? Well, in that case, if it is, then he gets the entire rebate for his first donation. Okay, so it solves itself if you don't worry about it and wait. And I think we'll find that a lot of this is quite easily negotiated anyway. But the main point is we don't need to worry about the tax because it's not a driving sales point. In fact, it shouldn't be a driving sales point, and it's covered. So technicalities differ. In our part of the world, there was no conflict between the 501c3 types, the registered charities in Canada and in Britain. That's not a problem. Registered, you get a tax receipt from the charity to the business. Straight up, right there, right then. Gift in kind, also equivalent.
The United States really is quite a bit more nasty about everything, aren't they?
Yeah. You're in. I've always figured that the IRS bears the same relationship to the American religion of money as the Spanish Inquisition did to the Catholic Church. And I think that your major social activity in the United States as a culture is worrying about money. And so naturally you get the Inquisition you deserve, and it's called the IRS.
That is fantastic. Oh, that's brilliant.
Be afraid, be very afraid. And that introduces a whole other level, of course, of discussion, which I think we should have quite soon on Blog Talk Radio, which is a discussion about the taxation implications. We've had some text chatter and the Skype chat about what the software for Community Way and other services needs to provide to be both accessible, marketable, and satisfy the authorities. And that's a conversation we should have in public, on the radio. So,
yeah. Bring it before the Inquisition.
Yeah. Nail yourself to the cross.
Okay, guys, we've only got 1 minute left, so we're going to talk about taxes and whatever comes up from this discussion next week, and maybe Amy will join us then.
Excellent.
All sorts of people will join us. It'd be fun to have all sorts of people joining us here.
Yeah.
And it's been fun today, Alan. That was a very productive run-through, I thought. Thank you very much.
Yeah, well, thank you. Much appreciated.
Okay, well, thanks, guys. We've been talking with Alan Rosenblith in Portland and Michael Linton in the Comox Valley. I'm Ernie Jacob. I'm also in the Comox Valley. We've been talking about open money, community currencies, Community Way, and all of those things you can find through lets.net and CascadiaTradingCooperative.ning.com and various other sites. If you Google for open money, community currencies, Let's Systems, all one word. So anyway, that was a good show, guys. We've got 10 seconds left. Catch you next week, eh?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Have a good one.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Okay. See you guys.
Bye.